Moving on to item number 19, implementation of the last, best, and final offer of the Yuba City firefighters contract. Natalie.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members again. Tonight I'm here before you to implement the last and best final offer for Local 3793, the Fire Union. The city's employment agreement with Local 3793 expired on June 30th, 2014. City staff and Local 3793 are unable to agree on terms of a successor agreement after 16 meetings. The meetings began in January 2014. The city declared impasse on November 13th, and there was no resolution at the required impasse meeting. The last and best and final offer terms are as follows. Employees pay the entire employee contribution towards CalPERS. This amount is 9%, which is the member contribution. Elimination of furloughs. Cap healthcare at the 2014 dollar contribution. Vacation and sick leave not counted as time worked for overtime calculations. Fire department staffing, according to ICMA recommendations, is 2 two-person response companies, and this is in addition to 3 three-person response companies. Acting pay or temps for vacancies and a first employee on overtime goes home from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. The recommendation is to adopt a resolution implementing the city's last, best, and final offer that I just went over to the fire union that would be effective January 24th, 2015. I also adopt a resolution for CalPERS stating that the city is no longer paying the fire union's member contribution effective on the same day. At this time, I move it to the City Council for action.
All right, any questions of staff at this time? All right, I'd like to open the public hearing. We have a number of people who have given written requests, and I have 3 speaker cards. So I'm going to start with the 3 speaker cards, which you will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. The written requests will be allowed up to 5 minutes. So we will start with Arlene Montna. If you could go to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please. Next up is going to be Karen Cardicelli, just if you want to get in line behind her. Okay.
My name is Arlene Montna, 1409 Stafford Way, Yuba City, 95991. Go ahead. Okay. This is not a win-win situation for anyone. I do understand that. But having used the fire department before, I hate to see it leaned down any more than what it is because they go out for everything. Thanks to them, they saved my son when he had a heart attack. They were there before the ambulance, and they helped him. Without it, he was extremely critical and would not have made it. I think that to take away from them at this time and lean them down even more is something that we don't want. Thank you.
Thank you, Arlene. Karen, you're up, and then after Karen is Rick Jimerson.
Good evening, Council. It's nice to see you. I kind of wish that you had called me after I got to hear what the official firefighter folks have to say, because my issue really is with regards to the fact that when I was on the council, we fought very, very diligently to go to a 3-man engine for many, many reasons, including firefighter safety, response time, public safety, and issues with regards to the ISO rating, impacts on fire insurance for small business, etc., which could occur if the rating is dropped because of the decrease in staffing. So all I would ask is that I feel like after fighting so hard for the 3-man engines for the stations when I was on the council, it feels almost like a step backward considering the increase in the population since I was on the council and the increase in the area of responsibility that our fire departments have to cover. And with that, with all due respect, I'd like to submit that information. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Mr. Jimerson.
Rick Jemerson, 1020H Oswald Road and 95991. I'm a Sutter County resident, but I'm a Yuba City businessman as well as a property owner in business in Yuba City. And I want to make it clear at the very beginning that I'm not speaking on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce or any of the other boards that I'm affiliated with. I also, for fair disclosure, want to recognize the fact that yes, in my family there is a firefighter. There's also a police officer local, and there's also a probation officer. So public safety is near and dear to my heart. Their safety as well, not just the public safety. And that brings up my concern, and I apologize with me being out of town and yesterday being a holiday, I wasn't able to have a prior discussion on a number of the items to see what your resolution was really regarding, but I liken this to running my business. My offices throughout the United States, if I were to have 3 people in them, and I was to lay off one of those people or move them out for convenience or me not having the fortitude or planning to have made sure that I had all that was needed, I wouldn't lessen my productivity by 33%. I would lessen it by probably 50% or more, because each one of those people have an assigned duty. My way, even though I do know a few people here, and I have never been a firefighter, and I've never been out on a fire call and such, but I do notice that when I'm going through the community and watch the activity take place, there's usually one person that's either directing traffic or monitoring the truck, and there are 2 people taking protective action or an immediate action. So again, if you were to take one person away from a 3-man crew, he or she, you haven't reduced it by 33%. You've reduced it by over 50%. I believe that's an unacceptable process. I would really encourage you to rethink this. I've been up here so often to compliment the city on what they've done, how they've thought out things and what they're doing. So I'm not meaning to make any enemies at this time, but I'm going to tell you the way I see it every time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. All right, now we have the list of the individuals who had written requests prior to the meeting. We're going to start with David Jans, and then following that is Ken Campbell.
Ladies and gentlemen of the council, Mr. Mayor, citizens of this community, my name is David Jans. I'm the president of the Yuba City Firefighters Association. I want to thank you for the opportunity to discuss this topic, the staff report that you received from city staff, as well as what a risk would be to reduce staffing in this community. I only have 5 minutes to discuss this topic, so I'll get right to it. First off, in paragraph 1 of your staff report, it states that the city laid out its objectives, but in actuality, they laid out some objectives prior to receiving the ICMA report. It's contrary to what you received. The city did lay out objectives. That was for employees to pay their portion of their PERS costs, their retirement costs, furlough eliminations, and a balanced budget by 2017. Firefighters did make a proposal accomplishing those objectives in January, but no response was received from the city, and negotiations were delayed by city requests, meeting only once between January and May, awaiting the ICMA report to come out. At that time, once the ICMA report was received, the objectives changed to include staffing cuts. This left only a few weeks before the contract expired in June. Furthermore, in paragraph 5, it states that the city objective is to reach an $800,000 cut. What it doesn't state is that firefighters are also required to meet the original objectives set forth at the beginning of negotiations, which includes what was once believed to be a temporary cut of furloughs. That price tag is an additional $575,000. So this means that it's a total price tag of $1.385 million that is being well documented in correspondence with city consultants, and requires a majority of that cost to be picked up in staffing cuts. This cost also exceeds the overall city deficit for 2014-15. 5 total proposals were presented to the city, with our last and final proposal meeting the $800,000 objective. We also additionally offered to pay our entire PERS cost willingly and immediately. But this, along with all other offers, were rejected by the city. But if the true number is $800,000, I believe we are very close. But the bottom line is this. The report you received does not accurately depict the group of firefighters in a way they deserve to be depicted. What was presented in this report to you was a group that's unwilling to negotiate. But history will show time and time again that we have risen to the budget deficit call and willingly gave up in order to maintain staffing. We are not asking you for money, we are asking for safety. But that brings me to the next point, the adverse effects of these cuts. We all know that with less firefighters at scene, this means there's more risk to both you and firefighters who have sworn to rescue you. This means a slower rescue. The National Institute of Science and Technology has proven that 2-person companies are up to 30% less efficient than a 3-person company. And furthermore, the federal mandate of OSHA's 2 in, 2 out would mean slower fire attack initially. The NFPA released further statistics in 2013 showing that fire may double in size every 30 seconds and can spread in 1,100% in the first 4 minutes. This means ultimately a lot more property damage. Additionally, higher workers' compensation costs were cited as being a reason for a budget deficit in 2008 and 2009. This was in your staff report as well. But a study of major cities shown that 54% increase in firefighter injuries occurred when they reduced from 4 to 3. We can only imagine what those costs would be from 3 to 2. And finally, in 2002, the publication titled Managing Fire and Rescue Services found that 3-person crews were about half as effective as 4-person crews. And 2-person crews weren't even considered worth testing. The publishing agency of this document was the ICMA. And finally, in conclusion, I want to remind the citizens of this community that this council was elected on a platform of public safety being their top priority. Reducing staffing levels to what they were nearly a decade ago does not meet that priority. Yet the population of our coverage area has grown, resulting in an increased demand for services and call volume risen 40% since the last 2-person engine existed. Our city can no longer risk running 2-person engines. They should exist only in our city's history. And finally, this group of firefighters carries out the mission of the city, and they carry out the mission of this fire department. They carry it well. We are passionate about our services that we provide to you, but if you're willing to make cuts to the level of services that we provide to our citizens, then that will be at your direction. It will not be because we are unwilling to negotiate, as your report suggests, or provide solutions to you. We strongly encourage the City Council to vote no or to postpone this vote and return to productive discussions in the interest of public safety. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, next is Ken Campbell. All right, we'll move to the next, Kenny Smith.
Good evening, my name is Ken Smith. I'm a property owner at 1155 Pease Road. Honorable Mayor, City Council members, my name again is Ken Smith. It's my pleasure to be here this evening to have the opportunity to express my concerns with this staffing proposal for your fire department. I stand before you this evening wearing multiple hats. I'm a fellow frontline firefighter for Chico Fire Department. I'm also an appointed delegate for the California Professional Firefighters. But I'm also a tax-paying citizen in your community. I'm struggling with the idea that my wife's aging parents, who reside in the humble home that we purchased for them to live out the so-called golden years, are possibly at risk of losing the emergency services that we signed up for. I certainly wouldn't expect to see a tax decrease to offset the reduction in services. And I apologize if I seem a little agitated. It's only because I am. I personally started my journey here in Yuba City under the wing of many of these amazing firemen. I was 19 years old, wet behind the ears, naive, young, looking to find my way. And I was instrumental in actually pushing an ROP intern program through Yuba City Fire Department, which put a volunteer EMT and a simple fire science student in the back seat of the fire engines, completely unaware of the constant battle for a third professional firefighter on the rigs, as you so eloquently spoke of. At a time when staffing priorities were obviously out of whack, I just wanted to get in the game. The experience for me was a priceless pillar in my foundation. But often I look back and I regret it. I look in the mirror and see myself as a roadblock for the fight that these men were in at that time to secure proper staffing on their engines. The unintended consequence of my personal pursuit made the battle that much harder. Made it difficult. And for that, I apologize. I've kept in close contact with the brothers and sisters here in Yuba, and even had the great opportunity to come down and proctor your last apparatus engineers test. To watch the department grow to the current 3-person staffing model that's here, I'm filled with pride. It's a fact that 3-person engine companies are exponentially more efficient and effective than the unsafe, unjustifiable 2-person engine company. I don't need to stand up here and throw statistics around from the Institute of Standards and Technology made up of fire service professionals and amazing propeller heads that qualify the science behind our dangerous work environment. It's common sense. It makes my stomach turn to try and grasp the notion that the proposed staffing pattern is possibly based on the self-proclaimed leaders at the core of better communities, the ICMA. A giant networking system for career paper-pushing, policy by propaganda managers. That their greatest occupational hazard is a paper cut. Local government managers tend to lean on the idea that ICMA provides them a safety net for bad decision making. I'm not here to challenge you. I'm here to empower you. Empower you to embrace the authority that these citizens have given you to squash this, table this, slow this train down. Please, this is a draconian approach to the rebound of your city's economy. There are safer alternatives, and I'm not going to stand up here and tell you that I know the solution for your specific department, but I will tell you that this facade of full coverage with less bodies is a joke. It's boots on the ground, it's sharp minds, it's strong backs, and it's even stronger hearts that protect your sick and injured and put those fires out. Please explore a better solution.
Thank you. All right, next is Brian Werda. Following Brian will be Karen Zavala.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Again, my name is Brian Warda. I live at 3838 Lincoln Road. I'm a resident here and a captain with the fire department. I left a better paying fire job in Sacramento to come work for my city, Yuba City. I take this passionately and don't easily come to something like this. This is a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I'm going to do it anyways. Plain and simple, the cuts that the city is recommending will put the citizens of Yuba City at greater risk. It's undeniable that that there's a potential for greater property and life loss. It could happen to you. Councilman Buckland, the fire station responding to your house is Lincoln Road. Your station will be staffed now with 2 under this proposal. Mayor Dukes and Councilman Gill, the fire station responding to your home's Butte House Road station. Your station will be staffed with 2. Councilman members Cleveland and Idball, you are the lucky ones. Your stations will likely retain its current staffing unless there is illness or vacation. For those of you whose stations are staffed at 2, did you know how quickly a fire can double? Every 30 to 60 seconds. If a 2-man engine company arrives at your home, we cannot make entry until the engine from another station arrives. By this time, your house will be likely gone. I hope no children or elderly people are inside. If a 3-man engine company arrives, we can make entry almost immediately to save your home and your loved ones, but not with a 2-man engine company. Let's talk about how this impacts the business community. Kingsbury Incorporated decided to expand in Yuba City, and city officials are elated for good reason. Now you're cutting the fire station that will respond to a fire or industrial accident at Kingsbury. You're cutting that down to 2-person engine company. Our ability to save the building and the lives of the employees will be greatly hampered. These cuts aren't good for business. I realize that the City Council wishes to find ways to reduce operating costs across the board, but that cannot happen until city leaders begin planning for the future. Even if these staffing cuts take place, you haven't dealt with the big issue, overtime. The city is not currently actively recruiting firefighters, yet today we have 8 vacancies that are forcing our firefighting professionals to work an obscene amount of overtime. For example, in 2014, one of our firefighters worked the equivalent of 14 hours a day every day of the year. Not 5 days a week, 7 days a week. I'm certain this firefighter would like to spend time with his family and his aging parents, but instead he answered the call of duty. He made sacrifices. You will continue to have overtime issues until we backfill some of these vacant positions. And even after these cuts occur, you will have vacant positions that are backfilled with overtime. But it is you, the city leaders, who have created this situation, not the firefighters. There's a multitude of options that do not include cuts to staffing and putting the lives and properties of civilians at risk. I encourage you to reconsider. I, for one, believe that we can reach an agreement that works for us and for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Karen?
He's ill tonight.
He's ill, not here. All right. Paul Demerit?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and honorable council members and ladies and gentlemen. I'm a latecomer to this issue, but I'm not a latecomer to our community. I arrived here almost 23 years ago and I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather. My 10th grandchild is on the way, and I'm a teacher. In fact, when I arrived here 23 years ago, where'd he go? Brian Warda was a senior English student of mine. I'm a proud man tonight. The guy's a good public speaker, and I appreciate his passion. I appreciate the passion of the men and women that serve our community in every respect, and especially in public safety. In my 23 years, I thank God that I've never had to initiate a call to my home at 1215 El Margarita Road here in Yuba City. But in my 23 years, I have initiated, and we as a faculty at Faith Christian School have initiated calls many, many times. In every single one of those times, the first responders have been Yuba City Fire Department. Every single time. Sometimes it seemed like seconds between the time I hung up the phone and the time these folks arrived. I don't know what we'd do if they weren't there as quickly. I work now, in addition to my work with Faith Christian School, with Ride Out Health. Tomorrow I'll be at Covalad School in the morning presenting a presentation on healthy living to 520 students and their teachers. So kids, safety, health, well-being is my passion. It's been my career my entire adult life. When I talked with Brian about this issue, I'm a cut-to-the-chase kind of guy, even though it may not seem like it. And I just said, Brian, you don't have to convince me. Just answer 2 questions for me. One, is this decision going to imperil any member of your team? And he said, absolutely. I said, okay. Is it going to imperil my safety, the safety of my children, my grandchildren, the safety of any member of our community? He said, absolutely. That's all I needed to hear. I think that's all you need to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. All right, did Ken Campbell make it or not? All right. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak on this issue? Please step to the podium.
Hi, I'm Steph Racina, and I live on Sharon Drive in Yuba City. I think every one of these guys has come to my place, saving my son's life. He has seizures, he stops breathing, he gets ridiculous lows, goes unconscious all the time. Sometimes I just can't give him enough CPR. I don't have the physical strength to help him. I can't give him IVs to raise his blood sugar. I tell you what, I go 911. My biggest problem is the signals to get them there. But they're always there. They go out of their way. My son has wedged himself between the headboard and the bed. He's been under. He's broken glass before, falling. And they don't care. They rescue him every time, 100% of the time. And all I can say is my son would be dead if it weren't for the staffing levels and for these men coming over here. I wouldn't even talk about fire. That terrifies me. One of the few things that does. My daughter was on Walton Fire Department, and I had been on rescue with both Loma Rica and Browns Valley Fire Department. So I know the bravery that is required in the teamwork, the professionalism. And to have less would impact me. It may cost my son his life. I've had 3 heart attacks. I don't know if I could survive another one, but I know if they were there, I would be cared for. I don't know how many car accidents that you have seen or you've helped with, but I tell you what, if it weren't for the firefighters, the death rate would go up a lot. And I also know that they're right, the insurance companies, they know how quickly fire spreads. And if you've got federal and state laws impacting their ability to do the rescues and to answer the calls, yes, insurance will go up. But mostly, please don't sentence my son to death and all the disabled veterans who can't get help in time because there's not enough firefighters. All the car accident victims, there was just one on 99 in Lincoln while we were here. There was somebody there to rescue them. Please see that they're there. If you have to use students, reservists, whatever it takes, please have them at least 3 per fire unit. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on this issue before we bring it back to the council? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Bring it back to the council for comments.
First, I appreciate all the speakers that have spoke tonight. Much of it with passion, some of it with the prior history. Much of that prior history we know. We understand it. I understand it. The men and women of the fire department, of our public safety here in Yuba City, are second to none in California. This isn't about the individual. This is about operating a city. This is operating at a service level that we can go, if not just a temporary basis, that we can continue to move forward and build our public safety to a stronger component. When we talk about response times, currently, half the time, there's only 4 stations open. I think that's important to know. Response times are longer on those days. If we can staff 2 of the stations with 2 people, that's all the stations being covered. Our response time should go down. I understand the fire component to this. We have a structure fire. The public needs to understand this, and I think we need to understand this. When that alarm comes in, there's 3 engines rolling. If it's a structure fire. The staffing of that is for fire management to determine which stations have which people. Brian, thank you for telling me that there'll be 2 people in Station 3. I've lived in my home for 20 years. When I moved there were 2 people in that station. We went to 3 just not too many years ago. That staffing level is really the paramount number. We understand that, but we struggle to be able to bring public safety to a level in Yuba City that provides a level not just at fire, but we also have to look at the police levels. I understand fire's down. Fire's down some folks. Marysville, they're paying a firefighter $45,000 a year. They took 350 applications. More than that. Police officer in Yuba City, we have an opening, we can get 6, 7 to apply. We had to make some adjustments. We went through negotiations. We don't negotiate at the dais. Negotiations were 16 sessions of negotiations. The traction didn't occur. Without traction, this council has to make a decision.
To the mayor.
I'll leave it to the rest.
All right.
First of all,
Before you make any comments, let me just say one thing, and Councilmember Buckland alluded to this, but I'd just like to say 3 things. Number 1 is we don't negotiate at the dais. That's what we hire a negotiator to negotiate for us, and we've had 16 meetings since January of last year with the fire union. Secondly, we had 3 goals for all of our negotiations with all of our labor groups. 1 was to end our furlough. 2 was that the employees would pay their share of PERS. And 3 was a balanced budget by 2017. And we have stuck with that throughout the whole process. And those were the goals that we laid out from the very beginning. And then we paid for an independent report so that we weren't making this decision just on arbitrary facts of our own. So I just want to lay that out to the public and let you know the process that we've been through. Councilmember Gill, if you'd like to.
Yeah,
make
first
some
of all, I
comments.
want to thank each and every one of the firefighters. I mean, you guys do a dynamite job. I've seen it firsthand. You guys represent the community in a very professional level. You put your life on the line every single day, whether it's at a car accident or whether you're going into a burning house. So first of all, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you guys, because you guys are the greatest asset of this community. And having said that, you're absolutely correct. Somebody mentioned that public safety is something that's very, very important to us in this community. Public safety comes in, fire, police, obviously flood protection. That's kind of what the peril of this entire community has been. I was there at that point in time when we voted for 3-man engine on that council at that point in time. Looking back now, as far as what we see, one of the things that we came across with all the bargaining units is that at this point in time, when we started these negotiations, the city was at, and still is at, a very tough time. We needed to balance our budget. We could not continue to operate the city in a deficit year in and year out. And our proposal coming back to all the bargaining units was, look, this was a 2-year deal that we're looking at, and we'll come back and revisit this after a 2-year period. Starting these negotiations early on, knowing that the contract was coming up, in June, we started these negotiations back in January. Now here we are within the month of January, following January, and you've only got 4 more months left, basically in year number 1 before the contract's already done. So in essence, you've already kind of gone away with a year without reaching any kind of a negotiation coming across. Our goal here is not to make public safety worse in the sense that you guys have mentioned it is. Our goal is to eliminate the furloughs and make sure that we no longer have brownouts. We make sure that every single fire station is open every single day. That's our number 1 goal coming across. In eliminating the furloughs, our goal is to balance the budget. But when it comes down to it, I've lived in this community 49 years. I've seen where the mall was, where orchards were. I've seen Walton Fire Department operating independently. I've seen 2-man engines. I've seen 3-man engines. I get it. This is my community. This is my life. This is where my children grow. I've seen firsthand when you guys responded to the 911 calls. This is not a long-term thing that we're looking at. We're trying to get through this tough time at this point in time. By doing so, this also allows the discretion up to the chief to see what engine companies he wants to have 2 mans and 3. There's nothing in concrete from our council. We're not giving him direction that it has to be Fire Station 2 or Fire Station 7. That's up to him to decide on what day or when he wants to have that particular engines rolling with 2-man. The other thing this allows also to do that the chief's done in the past is possibly apply for the SAFER grant, which in the past has been in a range of $800,000. So there's other avenues that can come into the mix at this point in time. But going back to what our mayor said, is these have been our goals from day number 1. We've had other bargaining units that have come a lot closer, that have closed the deal. And we feel from all the negotiations that we've done, we're nowhere closer today than we were when we started these negotiations. And I was hoping that we would not get to this point in time. And I'd love to see all of you guys or your representative come back to the table, negotiate this deal out. But I haven't seen any of that. And that's where the mayor said negotiations don't happen on the dais. They happen with the negotiators. So that's all I've got.
Right, thank you. Mr. Cleveland, any comments?
Being a little bit newer to the council doesn't mean that I'm not well versed in negotiations and issues with public employees. It's 8 years at the county with a staffing of double of what Yuba City is plus. I've been through this a few times already. While this council previously had set certain goals of moving toward a balanced budget by 2017, the furloughs and the PERS, those are similar to what the county did. But there's one here that I have a question as to maybe is driving the level of disagreement and perhaps moving towards being rigid on moving towards a balanced budget in 2017, maybe slipping it to 18 could have made it a possibility of an agreement being made. So I'm not sure on their goals because I was not here to help set those goals. I tried to understand them, and that's from the very beginning of the time when I heard them. The goals, I thought, wow, that's pretty tight given the financials that I was given during the campaign, that would be very tough to do. So I had question on that one item. When we were given tonight, what would reduced engine staffing mean to Yuba City? A little item that was given to us, and then on the back of it, it does a comparison, and it kind of surprised me that it was so high. I know many of the cities and visited and had family in actually some of these cities. Manteca, Watsonville, Gilroy, down in Tulare, friends and family over time that have been there, and seeing the annual calls per firefighter. And out of 18, we were number 16 as we exist now. And if the proposed staffing were in place as of last year, we would have been number 18 with 201 calls per, and the closest to us would have been Turlock at 179, and that's with comparable community, agricultural community, and at 201, when the average I would say is probably 150. It's just too many calls per firefighter per year on there. We're very high. It's what is it? We are at 8,450 calls, which is extremely high. I am a very strong proponent of 3-man staffing, period. That something needs to be done to make that happen in some manner, and it should not be reduced. I did dig into the history. I got it from both sides and the community on how it was arrived at the 3-man. the voting and when that occurred. I like to do research, and I don't like making decisions until I'm sure of what I believe and why. It is a tough time. The city is trying, and one reason I'm here is to try to help, hopefully, move into a balanced budget, but not just that, but into an economic boon in Yuba City so that we can even have a surplus and actually start doing things in a positive manner, saying, wow, we have money to add things. And that is actually my goal to do from other decisions that we are going to be making in the next few years. So for me, I just can't see going below 3-man service. It's unacceptable to me at this with all the information that I've heard so far. There are a couple of alternatives that specifically one that became aware of and actually became aware of it because I was discussing it with somebody and they said, well, that one, something very similar to it was proposed. And I was just trying to find out why it didn't go anywhere and who and where, which one refused it and stuff. And I was unable to finalize that even today. So I think that there is something out there that can be done to achieve that and not jeopardize the application for the SAFER grant. That's my real concern, because once that SAFER grant is applied for and we do get it, this problem goes away for a couple of years and we can start looking for revenue sources that'll make it permanent. So I think implementing this right now, for me, is a little premature. We have not been involved in it, a couple of us here, in the depth. And so it's a hard decision to make, right now when we're not sure of whether all stones have been turned.
Thank you, Mr. Cleveland.
Mr. Mayor, if I may interrupt, just as a point of clarification, the 5-year model projects the deficit being eliminated in 2018. So I know I've heard 2017 tonight. I just want to provide that clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stable?
I have not been a part of the negotiation process as being a new council member, but I did do my research. I spoke with many people, along with attorneys, as well as the president, as well as the chief, and so forth. And you can see I use a lot of notes. I've done the research. My bottom line with this is that I cannot justify jeopardizing safety at this point from everything that I've looked at. The concern for me is the safety of the residents, our businesses, our kids, and the firefighters. You work extremely hard. Me personally have had you at my home, at my parents' home, and if it wasn't for those split seconds, I would have lost a family member. So aside from that, I know if we go down and decrease staffing levels, those response times will be affected, whether we want to believe it or not. It's just, it's simple math. And I can't see jeopardizing that at this point, and not being a part of the negotiation tables, not having the conversation firsthand, doing the research, talking to several folks. That's where I stand right now. With the increase of population, I was born and raised here, so I've seen the population grow. We will continue to grow. Our whole arena is that we bring in economic growth. That means we're going to have an increase of population, and I think we're going backwards. We've developed a great department, and I just would hate to go backwards and then try to move forward. So that's kind of where I stand right now.
All right, thank you. Any further comments? I'd like to make a couple comments. First of all, I've heard from a couple of the council members that we're not privileged to be a part of the negotiations over the past year because of their position being new on the council. And this has been a long road. We started this process January of last year, and we have met with the fire union 16 times. and laid out our goals and objectives from the very beginning and talked about what we needed to be able to accomplish that. In fact, we, or the negotiators, gave a menu option of many different options to be able to accomplish what it was that we're trying to do. And as Mr. Buckland said, nothing made any traction. And we have tried, and we've said that these are the different options that are available that will achieve what we need to accomplish to meet these goals that we've talked about here. We can't afford to continue to spend out of our reserves and not be able to get any concessions to do this. We can't do this. We have tough decisions. We have one of the finest fire departments, in my opinion, in the state of California. We have one of the finest police departments in the state of California. And our employees of this city are second to none. You have to go a long ways to find the quality of people that have chosen to live and serve in this community. And we are proud of you, absolutely proud of you. But we have budget constraints that we have to work with. John talked about the fact that we have brownouts right now. Every other day, one station is closed in this city. What we want to see is eliminate the furlough so that we can have stations open 365 days a year and serve the public with more stations 365 days a year. Yes, it is a reduction in staffing at two stations. Well, I won't debate that at this point. I understand it was 2 stations, but no, we're not going to debate from the dais. The point is that we have given options to make this happen, and it hasn't had any traction in the negotiations. It's a tough decision to make, but we need to make the right decisions for the fiscal viability of this city. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion to recommend staff's recommendation.
I'll second.
All right, any further comments? All right, I'd like to take a roll call vote on this item, please.
Councilmember Gill?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Buckland?
Aye.
Councilmember Cleveland?
No.
Councilmember Didball?
No.
Mayor Dukes?
Aye. All right, the motion carries 3-2. All right, thank you for coming tonight and sharing your comments and concerns with us. We'll wait a moment here until the house clears.
Yep.
It's 2.
Yep. That's great. Yep. All right, now we have the